Welcome to New York's number two sports show. The Yankees win the series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. However, they are unable to get the sweep. And Trent Grisham did everything he could to try to give the Yankees that sweep, but unfortunately, they lose in extra innings. They lose in 11 innings, in fact, as Devin Williams picks up the loss there. So, kind of the opposite of last series, where against the Arizona Diamondbacks, where the Yankees lose the first two games, but they salvage this series in avoiding the sweep, and this time they don't get the sweep. But 2 out of 3 nonetheless, and a lot of good things that went on, and the bats were alive and well in the first two games. And really, the biggest thing, I mean, Grisham is the star of this series for sure. But you look at a lot of these numbers really up and down the lineup, especially at the bottom of the lineup, and just some of the players that maybe you weren't sure about as far as what they may or may not do. It's a lot of the younger players that I'm very impressed by, some of the homegrown guys. And, um, as I mentioned, Trent Grisham, I mean, Anthony Volpe has very, very good numbers and really even doing more than just the initial home runs. It's really rounding out as he leaves the series with a 297 batting average and an OPS of 1069. And the defense has been very good as well. Obviously, Aaron Judge in the first 9 games has been amazing. Really, actually, this series, for him, it was fairly quiet. He did homer in game 1. I guess it is rare that he doesn't homer in a given series, which is kind of crazy. But that's the thing is obviously he is leading the charge, but still, the at-bat quality has been good. And that said, though, you have a game like today, the third game, where Andrew Heaney, the former Yankee, just absolutely shut the Yankees down. It's one thing for it to be Zach Gallen, and even that I wasn't thrilled with because as much as Zach Gallen is really good, he was, whatever. That was what it was, and Zach Gallen is really good, but the to the level which it was kind of crazy. But Andrew Heaney goes 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts, 10 Ks in 7 innings. So it seems to me that when the Yankees, when they have you kind of figured out, they will clobber you. But kind of, on the other side of it, the Yankees have shown the propensity of really getting completely uh, silenced by some of these starting pitchers. Um, the stats overall are great, and I think Yankees are 6-3. No complaints at all at that, right? You're going to sign up for that, every day. When you're winning 2 of every 3 games, that's not a pace that you're going to keep up all season. So, um, you know, a lot more good than bad. The starting rotation for me, it's a concern without a doubt. And the good news is Clark Schmidt should be back in about week and a half or so, and put up a really nice outing in his rehab start. So it'll be great to slot him in there. He'll essentially be the number 3 or in the top 3. And right now, you kind of just have to, figure it out with the combination of Stroman, Will Warren, and Carlos Carrasco. And in this series, Max Fried was really good in game 1, and that was great to see after, kind of an up and down, more down, arguably, first game at Yankee Stadium. This was a really solid outing for him. But for Marcus Stroman and Will Warren, there were struggles. The difference is that in the Stroman start, Yankees got a lot of runs. And then, the bullpen did the job. And in the Will Warren one, eventually the Yankees rallied a ninth inning comeback, but, Warren did not pitch well, and the bullpen did everything it could up until the point of Devin Williams. So, as far as any transactions that did happen, Devin Williams did, return from paternity leave, activated. Uh, and so Adam Ottavino, who was put on the roster due to Devin Williams being taken off temporarily, Ottavino was designated for assignment. So I wasn't sure if to me, that was the right move to make, but I wasn't sure if it was going to happen given Ottavino's, just veteran status and the fact that he did pitch in a couple games with the Yankees and didn't look that terrible. Could we possibly see Ottavino down the line with the Yankees this season? I suppose that we could. If we don't, I don't think that's a huge loss either way, but, you know, uh, I'm sure that they were honest with him about the situation, and clearly he was fine knowing that he might only be around for one series, which was the case. Ian Hamilton is supposed to be back next series at Detroit, and so I'm curious as to who is going to be off the roster. One kind of thought here, and not that it's fair, because it kind of isn't, given the rotation status. But I'm wondering if Will Warren, at least in the interim, might be sent down because really, like Brent Hedrick and Yoendris Gomez, like those are a couple guys that come to mind. Those are probably two of the more likely players to lose a spot. They've been pitching pretty well. And I don't know. I don't think the Yankees have much of an appetite for losing either of them. And I think with Will Warren, you have the option of sending him down. I think that they may go that route. Now, the thing is, once Clark Schmidt returns, then you're going to have to probably get rid of one of those players. But the thing is, um, and when I say one of those players, I mean a Hedrick or a Gomez, and maybe it's not that consequential, but I have been impressed with what I've seen by them. I guess more so Hedrick, but I always felt like Gomez is someone who's been in the organization who I don't believe has options left. I think they'd be hard pressed to lose him outright. So bit of a roster crunch as it comes to the pitching on this team. But let's go back to the beginning of this series, and it was the home opening series for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they are not a good team. So anything less than taking 2 of 3 would have been disappointing. It is hard to sweep. That's just the way it goes. Um, but the Yankees did avoid Paul Skeens, which is a fortunate break because if they faced Paul Skeens, that's a very likely loss. So kind of a break as far as the schedule was concerned. But Max Fried was very good. 5 2/3 innings, picks his first Yankee win, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and it was a solo shot that he allowed to Brian Reynolds. Can't complain really much with that. So really good to see. And the Yankees bats were really, really very strong against Mitch Keller, the Pirate pitcher who went 3 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 7 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, and also had 2 hit by pitches. He was not very good. I do like the Yankee lineup against right-handed pitching a good amount. And you know, against lefties, they've had success, but I do think that they can be neutralized. I don't know that the options are great in a late game situation. Although again, like in this game 3 against Ryan Barecki, who's not really a top flight pitcher by any means, but he is a lefty. They did come back against him. So credit given, but I think I kind of like when I can see that the Yankees are going against probable starters who are righties. I kind of prefer that. Now, something else I should mention, and this is going to be one of the more negative points of this episode, and maybe it's not fair, but here we go. Cody Bellinger, who, and you look at the regulars in this lineup, his numbers to this start of the season are the worst. They're not like absolutely god awful, but they are clearly the worst of the bunch. Now, he missed the first 2 games of the series due to back stiffness. And, we've seen that with Paul Goldschmidt coming into the regular season, but it really hasn't cost him missing any games. He did have that one day off, but that was, kind of just a regular scheduled off day for Goldschmidt. For Bellinger, there is that. And so it may not be completely fair to for the criticism I'm about to make. I'm jumping ahead. One of the most disappointing, and I can wait till game 3 to get there, but I'll just do a little sneak preview. In the 10th inning, uh, top of the 10th tie game, runner on second, no out, Aaron Judge on deck. It's a 3-1 count that Cody Bellinger faces, and he just takes this weak against a lefty, but he takes a really, really weak hack. Just no situational awareness there. This is someone that is very excited for what Cody Bellinger could bring to this lineup. I was very much in favor of that move, and I think he'll be good, right? There's no concern here, but just calling it like I see it, like, boy, that was a brutal, brutal at bat. Probably the most disappointing at bat that I think I saw the entire series. But the more of the mention was the fact that Cody Bellinger missed the first 2 games, which gave opportunity to more players such as Trent Grisham, who took major advantage of it. So in this game, Ben Rice was batting leadoff um, with against the righty. So that is notable, right? Because Austin Wells, who batted fifth, he was the leadoff hitter opening day against the righty. Here they decided to go Ben Rice, and I think they're going to stick with that. I think versus righties, Rice is probably going to be leading off, which last year we saw that happen as well. So he does have some experience. And versus lefties, I think it will be Goldschmidt. And I think that's fine. I would, if I'm the Yankees, I would try to stick with that. for now, because I've been very impressed by what I've seen from Ben Rice. Really has shown some pretty good discipline, has drawn walks, has shown power, and I think that that could be someone that could be really effective at the top of the order. But really, the star of this game, there were a few of them. Um, and what was impressive about this game was the only home run was by Judge late in the game, off of former Yankee Tim Mesa. And Judge had his 61st home run in 2022 off of Mesa when he was on the Blue Jays. But Oswaldo Cabrera, and the unfortunate thing for Oswaldo is he didn't even, I don't even think he played. Like, I know he didn't start games 2 or 3. I don't think he got in because Oswaldo's better against righties. And Oswaldo had 3 hits and 4 RBIs in the number 9 spot. So, as far as this game goes, again, the opening day game for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and there was bad weather in Pittsburgh, but yet they got every game in, and no rain delays either. So kind of a fortunate situation. And then we're going to talk about the Detroit series and how there's been some time uh, revisions as far as the games in Detroit because of cold weather. But we'll discuss that after we're done with this Pirate series. Um, the Yankees get on the board in the second inning, and it would be Trent Grisham that gets it going with a one-out walk. Dominguez with a double. So it's second and third, one out, and Oswaldo Cabrera is able to pick up a two-run single um, to give the Yankees a 2-0 lead. Then in the top of the third, a couple more runs come aboard for the Yanks, and it was a two-out rally that got it going as Anthony Volpe's hit by a pitch, Trent Grisham single, an infield single, and then Jason Dominguez is able to pick up an RBI single to make it 3-0. And then Oswaldo Cabrera adds another one to make it 4-0. So some nice things going on towards the bottom of the lineup in innings 2 and 3 to give the Yankees a 4-0 lead. Brian Reynolds would respond with his first homer of the season. It was as a righty off of Freed to make it 4-1. But then the Yankees just kept on sticking with it in the fourth inning. And this is the impressive thing too, that like it wasn't like it was like leadoff guys getting on. It was with one out, with two out. And so what eventually happens is Anthony Volpe gets an RBI single to make it 5-1. And then Joey Wentz, the left-hander, comes in for Mitch Keller, comes into a bases loaded situation and with two out, and Jason Dominguez is hit by a pitch to make it 6-1. And then Oswaldo Cabrera with a bases loaded walk to make it 7-1. Max Fried did the job. And like I said, he ends up pitching into the sixth inning, doesn't finish the sixth. Fernando Cruz gets a strikeout to end the sixth. And then at the top of the seventh, off of Tim Mesa, it would be Aaron Judge hitting his sixth home run of the season. So again, and a series where Aaron Judge, I think he had 2 hits in the 3 games, but yet, make sure to do some damage here. And actually, it would be useful because of the fact that the next inning, Fernando Cruz, and we've seen a lot of good from Fernando Cruz, and he's very enticing. However, and this is more dating back to spring training. There's also been some struggles, and giving up the home run ball has been a part of it. Keep Brian Hayes, the son of Charlie Hayes, gets his first homer of the year, a 3-run shot to make it 9-4. So now all of a sudden, you kind of have a little bit of a game on your hands, but Brent Hedrick, the lefty, shuts it down with 2 outs in the seventh inning. Then he pitches a scoreless eighth. And then the ninth, Devin Williams, who hadn't pitched in about a week, comes in and is able to pitch a scoreless ninth inning, including striking out Brian Reynolds to end it. So a decent outing from Devin Williams. But we'll talk more about Devin Williams, who, you know, um, I'm not thrilled with, I guess, but it's also a very short sample size. But we'll get there when we get to game 3. Game 2, kind of similar to game 1, although the Yankees faced a little bit more of an issue as far as trailing in the game and had a quick response, whereas game 1 was very comfortable the whole way through. Marcus Stroman, not a great start. 4 innings, 3 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And to be fair to Stroman, and same sort of thing with Will Warren, is the first time through, they were able to make it work. And then it all kind of came undone with a 4-run fourth inning for Pittsburgh. For the Yanks in this one, you see Oswald Peraza as a starting third baseman. And that's notable for the fact that Pablo Reyes had been getting those starts, and now Peraza has surpassed Pablo Reyes. So, and that's one of those things too with Pablo Reyes. If Peraza is going to take that spot, it kind of leaves Reyes in a situation where he may not be on this roster all that much longer. Now, there's no one necessarily that comes to mind at this point as far as coming back from injury. DJ LeMahieu's far off, and even still, there's no really hope for me that he will be effective anyway. But that's here nor there. Pablo Reyes is just someone that I don't know, how useful he'll be at all. but deservedly so. Peraza getting the nod over him and has, looked pretty decent at the plate and on the field as well. So this is a lineup that again sees no Cody Bellinger. And for this one, Paul Goldschmidt leads off due to the fact that they were going against a lefty. What was interesting was that Ben Rice still batted second, despite all of that. Like, even against a lefty, he was still batting up there in the order. Didn't have a strong game as game one, but he did have a hit nonetheless. Um, and in this game, again, the Yankee offense was the reason for the win, and the bullpen got the job done too. Yankees do take the lead, and the Yankees took the lead in all three games of this series. In the second inning, it would be um, an RBI single by Austin Wells after Jazz Chisholm Jr. is hit by a pitch and still second. Gives Yankees 1-0 lead. Then in the third, Trent Grisham hits his second home run of the season off of a lefty, and he wasn't done there. Again, Trent Grisham in his career has been better against lefties than righties. And it is a shame that last season, Alex Verdugo got regular run. Alex Verdugo just signed a few weeks ago with the Atlanta Braves and is in the minor leagues right now, working his way up to the majors. Like, I understand that left field would have been a little bit of a weird spot, right? Because Juan Soto was not moving off of right field. Trent Grisham, it seems he's been exclusively in center field as a Yankee. And so that would have probably left Aaron Judge for left field. Again, an unideal situation, but one that Grisham deserved to play for Verdugo. And that's really being proven out even more so this season. So that makes it 2-0. And then in the bottom of the fourth, Stroman gets in trouble with the walks. Reynolds walk, O'Neill Cruz walk, Brian Hayes RBI double, Jack Sawinski walk. And then after an Alexander Canario strikeout, Emmanuel Valdez gets a 2-run double, and then an RBI ground out by Andy Rodriguez to make it 4-2 Pittsburgh. So really, really rough inning for Stroman. But the Yankees respond with a 6-run fifth inning, a double by Dominguez, a single by Peraza, and then a 3-run opposite field homer for Trent Grisham. Second homer of the game, third home run of the season, gives the Yankees a 5-4 lead. Again, Trent Grisham was the star of this series and has been very, very good in the early going this season. Colin Holderman, former Met, would relieve Bailey Falter, the left-handed starter who, ran into trouble there in that fifth inning. And eventually, Anthony Volpe with a very, very big bases clearing double, bailing out Jazz Chisholm Jr., who struck out with the bases loaded and no out. And for Chisholm, the numbers look pretty good, but there's been a lot of strikeouts. I haven't been thrilled with what I've seen from Jazz, which might be kind of contrary to other fans. And look, his skill set is awesome. A lot of speed. Like, second base has been pretty good, so far for him. There haven't been too many mistakes. But again, like, some of the at-bats have been pretty bothersome, and he's right in the middle of that order. I just wonder overall, especially against lefties, if maybe he gets bumped down at some point. I could see that happening, but the power is there, the speed is there. But again, these strikeouts have been kind of annoying to this point, but it's early. Sam Hill comes on in the fifth, a 4-pitch walk to Adam Frazier, which wasn't great, but it's quickly erased on a nice play by Anthony Volpe as Brian Reynolds grounds into a double play, and then Hill gets the final out of the inning. And then at the bottom of the sixth, it would be Tim Hill relieving Mark Leiter Jr. Mark Leiter Jr. coming on for Tim Hill, and Leiter Jr. does the job there in the sixth. In the seventh, Fernando Cruz with a nice inning, a 1-2-3 inning with a couple of strikeouts. So a good bounce back from the day before. And the Yankees had another run on the top of the eighth, and it would be a Paul Goldschmidt RBI single that gets it done to make it 9-4 off of Ryan Borucki, who we would see again in Game 3. And then Ryan Yarbrough, it was nice. A good response from him after a poor game in Game 3 against the Diamondbacks. Yarbrough ends up going 2 innings and gets 5 strikeouts. A lot of them were looking. It wasn't so much swing and miss, but still, that's impressive. And so if there was any thought that Yarbrough could be, off the roster, this helped his cause tremendously. And in the middle of that, the Yankees do score one more run on the top of the ninth off the former Yankee Dennis Santana. It would be a sac fly for Austin Wells that gets that done, and the Yankees win 10-4. So a very impressive first 2 games and fairly easy victories for the Yankees. But unfortunately, they lose a close one in Game 3. They don't get the sweep. And it would be Will Warren that would start for the Yankees. He went 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts, and he was cruising along. And then, unfortunately, it's a bad walk to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in the third that really opened the floodgates, and Will Warren just can't really quite get out of it. So Cody Bellinger returns in this game, and that essentially sent Ben Rice to the bench as Aaron Judge moved to DH. But the Yankees do take the lead in what was it? The Yankees take the lead in the first inning? Yes, first inning. It would be a Cody Bellinger infield single to start, and then he steals second, and with 2 outs, Jazz Chisholm Jr. gets an RBI double to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead. So a decent start against Andrew Heaney, but then after that, they did nothing against them, which was extremely disappointing. And then in the third inning, like I said, Warren cruising along, but then things just kind of come undone on a 2-out walk to Connor Falefa, then a single to keep Brian Hayes, a 2-run double by Brian Reynolds makes it 2-1. And then let's just go to the fourth. There were top of the fourth. We could discuss something, but not totally worth it. The Yankees don't score that inning. So bottom of the fourth, though, Will Warren added again for the wrong reasons. 1-out triple for Emmanuel Valdez. And you know what I didn't love on this 1-out triple? Trent Grisham, he is so lackadaisical. And that's what kind of drove me nuts more than anything last season. That's his style of play, like to a T. He's not the most like hustle type of guy. And I felt like he probably could have busted a little bit harder to avoid a triple, but there it goes. And then a sac fly for Tommy Pham makes it 3-1. And then Isaiah Connor Falefa, after an Adam Frazier single gets an RBI double to make it 4-1. So just Will Warren did a really poor job of just kind of keeping things at bay. And whereas I was impressed by his outing against Arizona and where I saw good things against Pittsburgh in this one, it doesn't end up great. And so then Brent Hedrick comes on and really settles things down with 2 scoreless innings. And it was 2 innings of no hits, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. So very impressive stuff for him. And then Yoendris Gomez as well. And for Gomez, he hasn't gotten the strikeouts, but the scoreless innings have been there. So 2 scoreless innings for him. He pitches the 7th and 8th inning. Let's jump ahead to the top of the ninth. And Ryan Borucki is on. The Yankees are down 4-1. Things are not looking good. And Heaney pitched 7 great innings. Then Dennis Santana with a very clean 8th inning. And then the ninth, Jazz Chisholm Jr. strikes out to start the inning. And again, strikeouts have been a big thing for him. He needs to cut down on that. He had 3 strikeouts again in this game. But then Anthony Volpe with an infield single. And then Austin Wells, I like what he was going for. He tries to bunt. And it was a nice play by Keith Brian Hayes to get Wells out at first. So he, like, it wasn't a terrible bunt, but it would have been a little bit better if he could have gotten it more towards down the third baseline. But then Jason Dominguez works a walk. And then Oswald Peraza is up and really works a very impressive at bats to keep things alive. 1 strike away from losing the game, and he is able to get a double down the left field line off of Kid Brian Hayes. And it scores Volpe, and it now becomes 4-2 second and third, 2 outs, and it sets up Trent Grisham against the lefty Borucki. And another situation when Yankees are down to their final strike. They were down to their final strike 3 different occasions on 3 pitches, twice to Grisham. And on the 2-2 pitch, he is able to get a 2-run single to tie the game in between first and second. And just Trent Grisham does it again. He was really the player of the series already, and that even just furthered it, make it 4-4. So then they bring on a righty, Pittsburgh, and Goldschmidt unfortunately grounds out. A nice play by Adam Frazier, and he just gets Goldschmidt out at first. Luke Weaver pitches a good 1-2-3 ninth inning. And then in the 10th, it's former Yankee Caleb Ferguson. And this is where that at bat by Cody Bellinger just really inexcusable for someone that's a veteran in this league, one of the better players in this league, knowing that Aaron Judge is on deck. For him to swing at that 3-1 pitch just makes absolutely no sense. And then he grounds out and he gets the runner over. And, yeah, sure, that is getting the job done to an extent, but not really in that situation because it's an easy walk. They intentionally walk Aaron Judge. And then Jazz Chisholm kind of loops out, does not get the run in against Caleb Ferguson. And then Anthony Volpe hits a hard smash and it's a ground out. So not a great job there by Bellinger and also Chisholm against the former Yankee Caleb Ferguson. But Luke Weaver, it wasn't a pretty bottom of the 10th inning, but he's able to keep the game tied. What was a little bit surprising was the fact that they didn't pitch more carefully to Brian Reynolds. In a runner on second, 1-out situation, he lines out to right. I was a little bit perplexed in the moment. Then they intentionally walk with no Cruz, which I understood why they did that and kind of agreed with it in some ways, but it almost led to them being in a tough spot where Joey Bark gets a 4-pitch walk, so it's bases loaded against Jack Sawinski, but Luke Weaver does what he does. He has been clutch, and he's able to just keep it there. He strikes out Zawinski on the nasty changeup. And so we go to the 11th inning, and it's the lefty Joey Wentz. And that's the thing. Teams are going to continue to use lefties against the Yankees, and Austin Wells strikes out. Yankees catch a break on a kind of a left of throwing error. So Jason Dominguez reaches. It's first and third, one out, and Oswald Peraza strikes out. Not a great at bat by Peraza after a really good one in the ninth inning. Here, he does not get the job done. During Trent Grisham's at bat, Jason Dominguez still second, and Grisham flies out to left. Would have been good for it's funny. The Volpe and Grisham chew out outs. If those had been earlier in the inning, you may be looking at a different situation, right? Where maybe Grisham gets a sac fly right there, or Volpe, that hard smash is maybe somehow a hit if the fielders are positioned differently. But Grisham was unable. That would have been awesome if he could have done it again. And he hit it well, but it's an out. Bottom of the 11th, Devin Williams comes on him. Williams did not look impressive. It was an Emmanuel Valdez fly out, which is good, no advance. But then Jack Sawinski still stirred. You can't let that happen. If you're Devin Williams, he has to stay at second there. And it kind of changed the end of the at-bat to Tommy Pham. And Tommy Pham ultimately hits a deep fly ball to left field, which wins the game. It goes down as a single. Really would have been a double, but, that's how it goes. The last batter. Sawinski scores, and the Pirates win 5-4. With Devin Williams, these aren't logical thoughts on my part. It's more so the fact, again, the Alonso home run last year, the opening day kind of meltdown, even though he recovered. And, the point is this: Luke Weaver, and look, this statement could change in a week, quickly. But if I needed one out, I would rather it be Luke Weaver than Devin Williams. That doesn't mean look, Devin Williams, he is your closer. Luke Weaver is your stout guy. And I don't even disagree with that, because I think that Luke Weaver, I like him more in that Swiss Army type role, Swiss Army knife type role anyway. But Devin Williams, I want to see a lot more from him. And for me, my initial feelings on him, I'm not the biggest fan. And again, this has been one of the best relievers in baseball. And that may prove to be the case. And I may look back at this and say, what a ridiculous thing to say. Again, I admit that it's not necessarily based in logic. It's more just a feeling on Devin Williams, and I want to see him be that reliever that he was at his highest abilities with Milwaukee. And again, just wasn't really impressive here. This game is not on him, by the way, right? That's a tough spot there in the 11th inning, trying to preserve the game. But ultimately, the Yankees win the series, but they don't get the sweep. And so now they go to Detroit, and they change each game time because of the cold, windy weather in Detroit. These were all night games. They've all been moved to afternoon games. And so that changes the field. Smart move probably by Major League Baseball. I'm sure the players don't mind it. So the pitching matchups, these are going to be tough. And I think on paper, that first one, when Frito Rodon pitches, you really got to find a way to win those games. And so it's Rodon versus Casey Mize. And that is one that I think, is winnable, certainly, but game 2 is really tough. Carlos Carrasco versus Tarek Skubal. And Skubal actually is off to a slow start, but we know what he's capable of. That is a very, very tough game. And then game 3 is going to be Max Fried against Jack Flaherty. And the Yankees saw a lot of Jack Flaherty in the World Series last year. Really eventually got to him in game 5. So it's really that game 2 that obviously is very, very lopsided on paper. Games 1 and 3, not as much, with you getting Rodon and Fried in the same series, but still pretty solid pitching across the board with Mize, Skubal, and Flaherty. And Detroit is a tough place for offense. So one would think that this will be more of a low-scoring type series. However, with the cold weather, that could really negatively affect the pitching. And so this could be a wacky type series. It's not normal that you see a series that has all 3 day games, but that's what we're getting here against the Tiger team that's 5-4, and one that I think will be a competitor in the AL Central. The Central is, probably the worst division in baseball, but still was impressed by what we saw last year from them in the playoffs. They do have some injuries, including Gleyber Torres. We will see old friend Tommy Kahnle at the back end of that bullpen for Detroit, but this will be the first American League opponent on the season. So 3 series, all National League, and this one will be an American League one, and one that, it's a Tiger team that I think will be competitive, not necessarily in the wild card race, but probably for the American League Central. So again, Yankees go to Pittsburgh. They are unable to get the sweep. They lose the last 1 extra innings. However, they do win 2 out of 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and will continue their road trip as they will take on the Detroit Tigers.